The TP-Link AD7200 wireless Wi-Fi tri-band gigabit router is a high-performance router that offers a fast and reliable wireless connection for your home or office. It supports the latest Wi-Fi standard, 802.11ad, which operates on the 60 GHz frequency band, providing speeds of up to 7,200 megabits per second. This router also has two additional bands, one 5 GHz band and one 2.4 GHz band, which allows for multiple devices to connect simultaneously without experiencing lag or interruption. The router also has advanced security features and a gigabit Ethernet port for wired connections. Additionally, it supports MU-MIMO technology, which allows multiple devices to connect and receive optimal speeds, and beamforming technology, which helps to improve the signal strength and coverage. To set up the TP-Link AD7200 router, you will need to follow these steps. Connect the router to your modem using an Ethernet cable. Plug the modem into the WAN Internet port on the router and the other end into the modem's LAN port. Connect the power adapter to the router and plug it into an electrical outlet. Wait for the router to fully power on. On your computer or mobile device, connect to the router's default wireless network. The network name and password can be found on the label on the bottom of the router. Open a web browser and type in the router's IP address, 192.168.1.1 by default, into the address bar and press enter. You will be prompted to enter the router's login credentials, admin for both the username and password by default. Once logged in, follow the on-screen instructions to set up your internet connection. This may include entering your internet service provider, ISP, username and password. Once the internet connection is established, you can start setting up the wireless network by entering a new network name and password. You can now connect your devices to the router's wireless network and start using the internet. Note, these steps may vary slightly depending on the firmware version of your router, so it's always a good idea to check the manual or the manufacturer's website for the most up-to-date instructions. There are several ways to improve the performance of your TP-Link AD7200 router. Keep the router in a central location. Position the router in a central location in your home or office to ensure that the wireless signal reaches all areas. Reduce interference. Keep the router away from other electronic devices such as microwaves, cordless phones, and other routers to reduce interference. Update the firmware. Regularly check for firmware updates and install them to ensure that the router has the latest security and performance enhancements. Change the channel. Change the channel on which the router is operating to reduce interference from other routers. You can do this by logging into the router's web interface and navigating to the wireless settings. Use QoS, Quality of Service. QoS allows you to prioritize certain types of traffic, such as gaming or streaming, to ensure that these activities receive the bandwidth they need. Use a wired connection, if possible. Connect your devices to the router using an Ethernet cable. This will provide a faster and more stable connection than a wireless one. Use a wired connection for high-bandwidth activities. Connecting devices that are used for high-bandwidth activities such as gaming or streaming to the router with an Ethernet cable will ensure they receive the highest possible speed and performance. Use a VPN service. If you use a VPN service, it can encrypt your internet traffic and improve security while also helping to improve performance by reducing the amount of data that needs to be sent over the network. It's also good to remember that the performance improvement will also depend on the specific usage case, number of devices connected, and the internet service provider. The TP-Link AD7200 router does have a mobile application called Tether, which allows you to easily set up and manage your router from your smartphone or tablet. With the Tether app, you can monitor the status of your router, including the number of connected devices, network usage, and more. Easily set up and manage your wireless network, including changing the network name and password. Control access to the internet for specific devices and set parental controls. Monitor and manage internet usage by setting data usage limits and receiving alerts when usage exceeds a certain threshold. Update the router's firmware and customize advanced settings such as port forwarding and VPN. Remotely manage the router from anywhere. The Tether app is available for both iOS and Android devices and can be downloaded from the App Store or Google Play Store. Note, Tether app availability and functionality may depend on the specific firmware version of the router, so it's always a good idea to check the manual or the manufacturer's website for the most up-to-date instructions. The TP-Link AD7200 router is a wireless router that supports the latest wireless standard, 802.11 AD, which allows for faster wireless speeds than previous standards. In terms of security, the router supports WPA/WPA2 encryption to secure your wireless network, as well as a built-in firewall to block unwanted incoming traffic. Additionally, the router supports VPN pass-through and parental controls, allowing you to limit access to certain websites and manage network access for specific devices. It is always recommended to keep the firmware of your router up to date to ensure that it has the latest security patches and to change the default password to protect your network from unauthorized access. The TP-Link AD7200 router is equipped with 8 high-performance antennas that are designed to provide wide coverage and strong signal strength. The antenna array is optimized to provide targeted Wi-Fi to different areas of your home or office, ensuring that you get the best possible performance in every corner of your space. It uses beamforming technology, which allows the router to focus its signal towards devices, rather than broadcasting in all directions. This can improve the signal strength and quality for devices that are farther away from the router. Additionally, the router supports MU-MIMO technology, which allows multiple devices to connect to the router simultaneously and receive a dedicated, high-speed connection. This can help to reduce network congestion and improve overall performance for all connected devices. Comprehensive connectivity. To match the unprecedented Wi-Fi speed, the AD7200 uses dual USB 3.0 ports and 4 gigabit Ethernet ports to transfer data at lightning-fast speeds. This allows all of your wired devices to achieve peak performance. The TP-Link AD7200 router supports the creation of guest networks, which allows you to provide internet access to visitors or other guests without giving them access to your main network and its resources. When you set up a guest network on the TP-Link AD7200 router, you can choose to give the guest network a separate name and password from your main network, and you can also restrict the guest network's access to certain features, such as network storage or printer sharing. This way, your guests can use the internet, but they will not have access to sensitive information or devices on your main network. Additionally, you can set up a guest network with a limited time. For example, you can set a guest network for a week or 24 hours. Once the time is up, the guest network will be disabled, and you will have to set it up again if you want to give your guests internet access. It is a good security practice to use a guest network when friends, family, or guests are visiting. This way you can keep your main network safe and secure. The TP-Link AD7200 router supports IPv6, which is the latest version of the Internet Protocol, IP, used to identify devices on a network. IPv6 provides many advantages over the older IPv4 protocol, such as a larger address space, improved security, and better support for mobile devices. When you enable IPv6 on the TP-Link AD7200 router, your devices will be able to use IPv6 addresses to connect to the internet, which allows for more efficient routing and a larger number of available addresses. Additionally, the router supports IPv6 tunneling, which allows devices on your network to access IPv6 resources on the internet even if your internet service provider, ISP, only supports IPv4. It is good practice to enable IPv6 on your router, as it will ensure that your network is ready for the future, as more and more websites and services are moving to IPv6. Also, it will give you the benefit of having a larger address space, which can help to avoid IP address conflicts and improve the efficiency of your network.